We've got flags and banners, and if you mind your manners, we might even get to standards and what they represent. So just take my voice's hand and we'll both try to understand how this vexilla logic podcast could be flagged for content. Flagged for content.
What's up, Vexheads, and welcome to episode 64 of Flagged for Content. It's the only flag podcast that is definitely keeping the flags at half staff on Inauguration Day. There used to be fucking rules in this country, huh? Days of the past. Anyway, it is also a Flags for Good podcast, which I mention every week, but now more than ever, can you buy Greenland, Panama, Mexico flags there? I think you could already buy Panama and Mexico. But you can now buy the Greenland flag on flagsforgood.com/flagged4content for like the number. And when you buy any of those flags or none of those flags, just another flag of your choosing, you can put in code flagged4content, flagged for like the number content at checkout and help yourself and the show out at the same time. Not a whole lot to get into other than I do apologize for this episode being way later than I meant it to be. This was supposed to be out last month. A few things came up. Things come up. I'm not going to keep making excuses for it. Just, times have been tough. It's what it is. Okay. The most important thing that I did want to say on this one, in addition to everything that I've already said, which was crazy important, is that you can buy the book in question, the book that we are talking about on this episode, pretty much anywhere online. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it directly from the publisher. If you Google, and I'm not going to put the links up here on screen because there would be too many of them, but just Google or DuckDuckGo or search, whatever you do, the Flag Revelation. And you will find it. You will probably instinctively know which places give Christopher the most and the least money. Hence, the least is Amazon. But there's a lot of different ways and a lot of different places to buy this book. So go out and get the book if you haven't. It was a very interesting read. It's not my usual fare when I go in for flag stuff, but this one was... It was different in a very fun way. Like, it was a very light read. It was a very easy read. It was a very, oh, I didn't know that read. And yeah, like no notes other than what we discuss on the show here. So go pick that up for sure. I don't think there's really anything. Yeah, I got nothing else on my list here. So we can go ahead and get into the episode. This is myself talking to Christopher Maddish, who also was on the board of, or one of the writers, editors, I don't know how he would put it or how Vexillum puts it, but of Vexillum, the Nava Quarterly that all of us as members get as well. So you may have read some of Chris's writing and not even known it yet. Anyway, I'm going to stop being boring on that front. Just go ahead, get in here, listen to me talk to Chris about his favorite, his overrated, underrated, all that good stuff, and most importantly, about the book itself. Let's get into it. Folks, we have yet another amazing guest this week. You know him from Nava, you know him from the Prime Meridian flag, and you know him as the creator of a book entitled The Flag Revelation. It's Christopher Maddish!
Howdy, y'all. Welcome, Vexy Balls.
Dude. Howdy, man. How you been?
Yeah. What a holiday, what a spirit. Yeah.
What a holiday, what a spirit.
Yeah?
Yeah. For viewers and listeners, we are recording this like the weekend right after Thanksgiving, but you'll probably see it in a week or so. So yeah, we're both kind of still, I guess, like, I don't know, reeling from the holidays and everything. How was yours?
Oh, I'm stuffed. My refrigerator is packed. I can't complain.
Yeah.
No drama. People were cool.
That's good.
Actually, there was a tiny bit of drama. But drama, I think, is good too because you remember those fun little dramas.
Uh-huh.
Because if it's boring and happy, it's not as memorable, I guess.
Right, right. You'd be like, oh, wasn't that the Thanksgiving where nothing happened? No one ever says that. No one ever says that. Well, hopefully the drama was at least to a minimum.
Yeah, we ironed it out quickly. So
Good, good, good. Yeah, I released the most recent episode on Thanksgiving, and I was like, hopefully this will give people something to listen to or watch if they need to get away from family for a minute or whatever the case may be. But anyway, hopefully everyone had a good one. So let's go ahead, and we've got a lot to talk about today. Considering I read a whole book for this episode, which is the first time I've done that. So what is on the flagpole today, Vex Heads? Well, I'll tell you. It's our usual over and underrated flags. We've got a lot to talk about, as mentioned, on Christopher's new book, The Flag Revelation. We're going to chat about flags that don't exist but maybe should. But first, before we get into any of that, Chris, I like to ask my guest, what are the flag or flags that got you into flags?
That's easy. The South Korean flag, as you can see behind your head right there.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah, what a
This little
coincidence.
thing?
Yeah, I always saw it as a little kid. I didn't know what it was. It was even before I knew what flags were. And
Right.
Something about that symbol just caught my attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good time to get into flags is before you knew what they were.
Yeah.
But
Well, anyway, so that was I guess the first flag to be imprinted on my subconscious. And then I ended up teaching English in Japan. I guess that's why the Japanese flag is there. And that's where I guess, dove into vexillology. When you're like living in an international environment, especially anyone who teaches English abroad will know this. Anyone who speaks English in a 100-mile radius, you're like, oh, I know that person. I know where they're from. Oh,
Yep. Yeah, okay, so you taught English in South Korea or in Japan?
In Japan.
In Japan, right. But the South Korean flag had already drawn you in a little bit before that.
Yeah.
Okay. And looking at these flags, there's a bit of, I don't know, similarity, if you will, in them. Is there,
Yes.
is there any, and we can touch on that a little bit more later as well, but was there something that kind of drew you into this specific style of flag with like a centralized element and maybe in the case of South Korea, like a few things kind of coming off the side, but was there something about that specific design type?
Yeah, it's very unique. I have no relation to South Korea or Japan, but they're just fascinating flags. More so, I don't like to put one above the other, but there's more, I guess, dynamic to the Korean flag, South Korean flag. And I just couldn't help make the connection, Japanese sun. Oh, kind of looks like the moon, or not, or maybe. And then when you dive into the yin yang of it all, it's like, oh yeah, the yin yang symbol slightly has a connection to the moon. So it's like, oh, there's that balance, that sun and moon sort of symbolism you could draw out.
Yeah.
It's very explicit with the Japanese flag. Right. It's a little more subtle with the South Korean flag.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I do remember, like, as a young Vex head, like, I had no idea that I would, one day, well, I had no idea what podcasts were because nobody did. But, like, I remember looking at the South Korean flag and the moment that it clicked to me that the, like, opposite parts are doing opposite things. Like, this one has, like, a break in the middle of all three. That one has none. This one has a break in the middle. This one, that's the only one that doesn't. Like, I remember realizing that as a kid and being like, oh, wow, this is really cool. Because it's like, it's something that even a kid can conceptualize. It's like, oh, these things are opposites of each other. Like, I don't know fully what that means, especially as a 10-year-old or whatever. But like, it was a cool thing to figure out and be like, oh, okay, so it's kind of like a mirror almost, like, cast upon it. And especially with the I don't know what the symbol is called. Is it just a yin yang, or is it might be different in Korean, but
yeah, it is. I don't used to know it off the top of my head, but
these are some kind of gram.
Oh, Let's see. Well, I did realize, though, I always assumed it was almost like, what do you call it, the Mandela effect. I used to think that the South Korean flag had the counter color dots. And it wasn't until I got into college, it's like your brain remembers it
Right.
one way, and then you see, like, wait, they're not there. What happened to them?
Yeah. Like the cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom logo.
Yeah,
which I swear was there. That's like the one that gets me. The Berenstain Bears, okay, sure. And obviously Nelson Mandela wasn't dead, but like the cornucopia on the Fruit of the Loom thing, I swear that was there. I could swear to it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm wrong. Anyway, whatever. All right, so we will move on from the ones that got you into flags. Again, we will touch on those later because there's an important point that I want to make on it. But I usually let the guest pick. Would you rather do the overrated or underrated first?
All right. I'm going to let Destiny pick overrated.
All right. So, what is your overrated flag?
I think that's kind of mean because I like all flags and I don't want to step on anyone's toes. You know, you grow up in that perspective. Oh, this is the cool flag. You like it. And I can see that too. But for me, you really put me on the spot for this because it was hard to pick one and anger maybe a million people saying that your flag is not very happy. Yet,
right.
If they ever track me down, I'll be that persona non grata. But I have picked the most overrated flag is the UN flag.
The UN flag. Okay. Gotcha. I was looking on our doc and I didn't know if you were going to do that one or the other one. And I was going to say, I don't think the other one has a million people to be mad at you, but the UN one definitely does. So, all right. What is it about the UN flag?
Get the whole world mad at me now.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, yeah, almost by definition. Almost. But all right. So what about the UN flag makes it overrated? And I can probably kind of imagine, but let's go into it.
Well, it's white and that sky blue, and it's a flag that's in the sky. I mean, skies aren't always sky blue and white clouds all the time. I know there's gray skies and dark skies, but it just seems, I don't know, it needs color. Maybe a rainbow, I don't know, little sparkles on the side or something.
Yeah, but then it's going to get accused of being like a pride flag.
Right. Maybe Olympic colors?
No, because then it's excluding other people somehow or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
There's no quick fix there.
No, I don't disagree with you that it's like a boring flag, but I think it's almost one of those that has to necessarily be boring, like Kosovo and Cyprus, where it's just the outline of the place and then some stars or leaves or, you know, whatever. Because it's like, look, we're not taking a stance on anything here. We just want you to know, like, what we look like. Or what the shape of our, you know, organization, country, whatever is. But yeah, no, I don't disagree that it's not the best designed flag. But I'll say this, I'll ask you this. Like, if you were to redesign it, first off, would you? And secondly, if you would, any design tips?
Yeah, something original. Let's get those long ignored outcast colors. Like maybe I like this background here. Black and yellow. Maybe some purple. Maybe some orange. Get those guys in there. They never get a chance.
Okay.
That way, be like, oh, we know what it is. It's got color. It's got flash.
Right. So you want, okay, I gotcha. So you want the UN flag to stand out and be like a statement, and also be from the 80s or something.
Perhaps. Tiger stripes. Let's do that.
Because that sounds like an incredibly loud flag. Like, it sounds like the starter jacket of flags, but I could kind of see it. Like, you wouldn't mistake it for anything else.
Yeah. No, I guess you could do dark blue and green would work too. Kind of world.
Dark blue and green, no.
Yeah, environmental.
Because they don't contrast, and there's so many blue and green flags where it's like,
yeah,
the blue is the sky and the green is the land. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't support that on the UN one, but I just like, yeah. I mean, I agree with you because like overall the UN flag is pretty meh. I just don't know what else they could do for it.
Let me think deeply.
And it does remind me of that flag of Antarctica that is just like the compass, or like the, you know, like it's cut up into eighths like a pizza or something. That Antarctic flag, because there are many, but yeah, I don't know. If you could prey on the UN flag and come up with something better. I do like more colors. I don't know, like, yeah, it's tough. Because it's also a flag that, well, I guess you don't have to get everyone to agree on. They don't necessarily need to, but
How about
yeah.
a brown flag?
I guess like maybe just a brown flag. Because brown is like, when you're painting, brown is just, if you mix all the colors, you get brown. And unless you have any other ideas, we can go ahead and move on to the underrated flag.
Underrated flag. Yes. I like the old Salvador flag that was the inverse of basically the U.S. or Liberian flag. So the stripes were blue, Canton was red, and it had white stars.
Right, okay. The one with 9 white stars?
Yeah, I mean, they vary, I think. But because El Salvador's flag is good, I do like it. It, like many flags, suffers from partner look-alike, which is, I think, done intentionally too. I mean, they part of that region, and that's cool. But that, to take that bold design and almost not necessarily mimic the U.S. flag, but be like almost like the how the Cuban and Puerto Rican flags are like inverted.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I had seen this one. I don't think I've come across it. But this is very interesting, and exactly like Chris described. Yeah, it's like a much smaller canton that's a square and has 9 stars, pretty much, 3x3 in it, and 5 blue stripes to 4 whites. Yeah, this is not a bad looking flag. It's obviously US inspired, but quite a few are at this point. So
yeah, it has pop though. It'd be like people be like, "Oh yeah, there's the El Salvador flag."
Like, yeah, definitely
people
more than now.
Buying it, wearing it. I want to wear it. It's like,
yeah, because like the one now, it looks like, I mean, like, yeah, like you said, like they're related for a reason, because there was like the Republic of Central America or whatever. And so now like that one, and Nicaragua and I don't know, Honduras or whatever, a lot of them look the same. Like they have the same blues and the same crest in the middle. No, Honduras has the stars, but anyway, a lot of them in that general area. Yeah, this would make it stand out, which I think is cool. Yeah, definitely overrated. I didn't know they had that till 1912. I wonder what happened in 1912. Probably the US. Well, anyway, all right, cool. So anything more to go into on overrated, underrated, or, intro flags?
Intro flags. Well, we got our honor of Thanksgiving quasi-holiday flag, inspired by Peter Orinsky, modified by myself, but it just has it kind of backwards, where there's a pilgrim and a Native American arm on top, instead of being reversed as the Indian with the sword on top.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when we started recording, or before we started recording, I was like, is that basically the Massachusetts flag, but different?
Yeah.
And yeah, Christopher confirmed that it is, in fact, that.
The difference is I switched it up to red instead of blue, and I got rid of the star and put in the cross.
Yeah, no, actually, that
Peter's design. So
total sense. All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and head into our first ad break. When we get back from that, we are going to go into the bulk of the show, which is talking about Christopher's new book, The Flag Revelation. So stay tuned for that. We will be right back. And we are back, more here with Christopher Maddish, and we are going to get into the bulk of the show here. So Christopher has written this book, The Flag Revelation. It is, I think, part one of a series from what I gather. And, well, I'd love for you to kind of give your thesis on this and just kind of give us a rundown on what the whole book is about.
Oh, I gotta get my elevator pitch ready. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. Without saying elevator pitch, that is pretty much what I was asking for.
Yeah. Well, you should be able to sell it in the title. So marketing came up with this gem, and I was like, okay, sounds good. The Flag Revelation. Proof of Providence due to the mysterious and uncanny connections of the 50 states of America. Synchronicity Illustrated. All right. So if you like flags, you like synchronicity, you like history, this book's for you. I would say it's kind of like 16 little books in one big book, because each chapter kind of floats on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But what's it about? You could call it an emergent pattern from, I guess, a more academic perspective. I try to walk the middle line, because the book is written for like general audiences.
Yeah.
I think people would look at this pattern and they would think, oh, synchronicity, got it. Okay, whatever. The other half might think Providence. I'm like, okay, what's that? You're diving in sort of like the hot zone religious topic there.
Okay.
But I try to here are some facts, enjoy the ride. I kind of push one way or this way every once in a while, but I try to leave it to the reader to enjoy it. Nonetheless, after you read it, the bottom line is it's fun and educational is my goal. Being a lifelong teacher, presenting this information, presenting it in a way that's kind of fun. And when I first came up with this pattern, like everyone who studies flags, you're looking at all these flags and oh, they kind of look the same. They look like this. And I put them together. I'm like, wait a second. That flag of North Carolina looks just like the Texas flag. Bingo. Okay, that's one. Then I got another one. Oh, Florida, Alabama, easy. Then a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, can I get every state to do this? Kind of come together and build that visual harmony. I didn't even know what it was at the time.
Right. Okay.
I kind of heard it in it's the album of the Police. I'm just playing with my flags.
Right. Okay. I was gonna make a synchronicity joke at 5 different points during this, but yeah. Go on.
So that was the start of it, and I was like, well. And it led me to Nava, and here we are today.
Okay, so that led you to Nava. You weren't even in Nava before you started kind of down this, down the road of this project.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because I had a couple quotes that I'd highlighted here in my book, and I mean, the first one basically speaks to what you already said, which is the challenge of explaining Providence to the uninitiated can be rather difficult, as synchronicity and Providence are essentially grounded in nonlinear thinking where logic and reason fade. So, yeah, I guess I had not... it is a unique kind of dichotomy between people that believe in Providence, this was meant to be, right? That's pretty much what we get from Providence. And synchronicity, which is these things happen to line up or whatever. Do you tend to take a side in that argument depending on the flags, or do you kind of leave it up to the reader to take that side?
I think the book is taking a side. You can't get that perfect middle point. Try as I would on anything necessarily. Go right down to the atom and get it perfectly, each side equal. But yeah, diving into synchronicity too. Synchronicity officially has been, I think, co-opted by the New Thought community. All it is a clinical term. Dr. Young was like, okay, my patients are acting this way because they experience two situations that are not connected. There's no causality, a chain of events, and they're reading into it. It's all psychological. Oh, emotional. It's almost like a Pavlovian description of what's going on. It's okay, so what do we call this thing? I'm going to call it synchronicity. It's a psychological term, clinical, medical establishment, people in all the PhD universe. Yeah, we get it. He has the the backing, the objective sort of training to understand what this is. But then a few years later, it's just become, this groovy synchronicity thing that, it's like,
Yeah.
no, that wasn't its intention. It's just a clinical term.
Right.
Yeah, like I think Whitney Smith would be like, yes, synchronicity, got you, and he'd leave it alone. But reading into it to the sort of the emotional sort of the cosmos or the universe talking to you, that's like the next level. I think where most of the synchronicity people are at. I go to their rooms and then they're like, it's like, huh? I'm like, well, do you remember what this term originally meant? I mean, I see why they're doing it totally, but it's an interesting crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
Did I answer your question? I don't know.
I think so. It's a tough question to answer, but I mean, you answered it pretty much up top with like kind of the way that you approached it in the first place, which is kind of what I was trying to get at. And if I could, and I don't know if you would agree that this was your thesis, but one of the other things that I had highlighted as what I kind of took away from the book as your thesis was that each state has what is hereby coined a fraternal flag partner. And now that's just like a sentence fragment from the intro. But I think that kind of leads into what the rest of the book is about. They each have a fraternal flag partner, and then it's your job as the author to go into those and explain why. So I'd love to get into a pair of them. Is there any pair that you feel strongly about? Like you've got Oregon and Nebraska, we've got Connecticut and Vermont. One of the ones I was more taken with, Montana and Kansas, as well as Wisconsin and Maine. Like, you kind of bring in the elements of the flag with elements of the state and say like, okay, these things are similar in these two states. These things are similar in these two flags, and it's not an accident, more or less. But
but it is, but it isn't.
well, it is, yeah, exactly. It is, but it isn't. Yeah, which is the whole thesis. But are there any specific ones that you would like to get into?
I guess you could say when I was writing it, one of my favorite chapters, because it's like the creative process. I mean, I've been blogging and a little post here, getting my writer skills just to get that whatever that creative juice is. But then when you go writing a book, it's like a whole whoa. It's like a lot heavier. It's like this is serious now, and you got to dig a little deeper. And it's almost like you go in a different realm of your consciousness, and you're like listening, trying to get everything sorted.
Yeah.
And the real coolest chapter when I was writing it, I kind of fell in love with was the Oregon and Nebraska chapter. I was just like, wow, it was almost writing itself. Like you hear writers say this, like, oh, I'm just letting this flow through me or whatever. Creative.
Oregon and Nebraska, yes. Okay.
Yeah. And of course, Oregon's a special state. It has two partners, and it's two-faced. But that's interesting, I guess. Favorite? Yeah, they're all. I guess we could do Montana, Kansas is fine. That's cool. And maybe the first one, Pennsylvania, Michigan, I guess.
Which one do you feel? Well, which one do you want to talk about the most, really?
Actually, before we go there, I got a little experiment here.
Okay.
You were hinting at it and describing the book. It's like the flags are sort of like the key that, like the synchronicity. That's the initial contact between the two states. Is okay, similar flags. That is the surface key that kind of unlocks all these, you could say, hidden synchronicities or these weird things kind of resonating with each other. That being said, some people look at the book, oh, it's just another flag book. Come on, that's been done. We already have that information of when it was created and who did this. Why do I need another flag book? When I'm pushing my flag or giving my elevator pitch, and I realized, well, it's more like history too. And honestly, the percentage of it being about flags is, what do you think? Is it 50% flag? 10%? 5%? I got it written down what I think it is. And let's see if we can match the percentages. of actual vexillological content versus all the other stuff that's in it.
Okay.
So my number is right here. Let's see. Oh, whoop. Did I give it away? Oops.
Oh, if you did, I wasn't looking.
Okay.
Of the actual flag stuff?
Yeah, it's actual vexillological community. Like, oh yeah, we love flags. I want to read about flags, like flag nuts. I want the flag content. The other stuff is kind of cool, but flags is the key,
I don't know,
right?
probably like 15%, something somewhere in there.
I put down 10%.
10%? Yeah. Somewhere like in the 10 10 to 15 range. That makes sense because most of what you're talking about in the book is, well, you're talking about things on the flag, but you're talking about like the things that make these places similar or in fact different in some cases.
Right.
As they relate back to a flag, but the flags themselves are mentioned about probably 10% as often as the similarities and differences are, I would say.
Actually, it's just like the Korean flag over there. So the 4 tetradiagrams, sometimes they're aligned in opposition. Sometimes there's like this really groovy similarity. So it's sort of like the 4 seasons, the 4 sort of elements kind of thing. There's always this sort of dynamic. Okay, sometimes they match in a poignant way. Sometimes they're complete kind of the other direction kind of way. I guess that explains why this South Korean flag was the first to be imprinted in my mind, I guess.
Yeah, probably. All right, so like let's go into one though. Let's honestly, all right. I think a good one to go into that is in this book is Michigan, Pennsylvania. I think a lot of people are, well, one, it's I think the first chapter or the first after the intro. But two, I think a lot of our viewers and listeners are familiar with the Pennsylvania flag due to past guest Tara Stark and just, there's a lot of talk like Napa 58 was up there or 57 rather was up there. So so take us through what you're thinking when you're talking about Michigan's flag and Pennsylvania's flag and how those are linked.
All right. Well, first, you got to look at it right there. Does that help? Bing, bang, bong. Very similar, right? Get real close to the camera.
Yep.
Well, that being said, you probably better get a screenshot of that. Out of all the Major League Blue flags, there's like that dichotomy again, that sort of domesticated horses versus the wild elk and moose. So it's like, okay, a similar stance. It's very subtle too. Like when I first was playing with my flags, like making these connections or whatever, it's like, oh, they all look alike. But when you become like a connoisseur, like of wine or music, you start to, oh, wait a second, there's something here, there's something different. You wouldn't necessarily notice on that sort of surface level impression.
Right.
And then I kept just, I'm like, wow, Michigan's flag is just kind of like the most like Pennsylvania's, or which way you want to go. And then finding all these like other connections and just meditating on it over and over again. But the real key that kind of like you get, when I was writing this book, I had a lot of eureka moments. Whenever I would find like a synchronicity, just like my brain just went, whoa, write that down. Like almost a good idea. You want to, don't forget about it. That kind of experience.
Right.
And I know that Liberty Bell is such an important icon for the United States. It's related, it's an icon of Philadelphia, of Pennsylvania especially. And everyone's like, oh yeah, Liberty Bell, they're all loving it. But when you dive deeper into it, okay, it's quoting this part of the Old Testament. Cool, awesome, I get it. And then there's that initial synchronicity. Why is it so famous? And then you look into how like it became the Liberty Bell because that crack kind of represented the situation in the United States at the time, where it's half slave, half free. and there's the Liberty Bell, and it's got a crack on it. It says Liberty. It's like, whoa! I'm sure that in and of itself is synchronicity. People in the time wouldn't call it synchronicity because that term hadn't been yet invented, but they're just seeing this random crack in a bell.
The police
Just
weren't
happens to
around
have
yet.
Liberty on it, and it's like, and the Abolition Society said we got to use this as our icon. This is America. This is yada yada yada, and that's kind of like people back then wouldn't necessarily call it synchronicity. I think they would use the term Providence, I would assume. Looking through some of the literature, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is our symbol, this is our icon." Until we got to get rid of this.
Yeah, so that's part of how you rectify synchronicity and Providence too, is like kind of going through the eras and what people would have called certain things. Like, that makes logical sense to me. Okay, sure. Okay, so continue on. So Pennsylvania and Michigan, yes.
Yeah, this is like the like chiming in my brain moment. And then, of course, in Michigan, they got an icon too. It's really famous in Michigan, especially Detroit. Kind of represents Detroit more so than say rest of the state, but everyone in Detroit loves this icon for whatever reason. Again, it has Liberty on it, but it's from, I guess, the New Testament. I'm like, oh, there we go. There's a match. Bing bang. They just and they happen to have the same flag, so that upper synchronicity of the flag is looking alike. And then I don't know if you want to call it collective consciousness, or people just, if that statue would have went to Ohio, somewhere like, I don't know, Columbus, Ohio, it wouldn't have the same impact on that matching, or even Illinois, New York, New Jersey. But it happened to just be synchronized again to that secondary layer of concord between Pennsylvania and Michigan.
Wait, which statue in Michigan?
Yeah, it's called the Spirit of Detroit.
Oh, okay,
yeah. It quotes.
I was gonna say it's not one of the parts that I have highlighted, but I do remember reading that.
Right.
I couldn't highlight all of it,
Yeah, so those two icons, the Liberty Bell from Pennsylvania, and it was made overseas in Europe, and then you got Spirit of Detroit. Again, that was made overseas in Europe too.
Right.
And they both have a quotation of liberty from the old and the new. And Pennsylvania is the older state, and Michigan is the newer state. And Philadelphia and Detroit there's very few cities that kind of like match up on their like demographics and sort of like feel and personality. I mean, each city is its own flavor.
Sure.
Detroit and Philly, they got that their same dynamic kind of blessings and burdens, and all the suburbans, and then the inner city, the music type, phenotype, you could arguably say.
Yeah, I've never been to Detroit, so I have no idea. But I'll take your word for it on that one. But I noticed like one of the other things you said, like, because you list a lot of similarities in the book about them, and one of the other ones was that Pennsylvania and Michigan are two of the few states that were invaded and had their original capital cities occupied by Britain. Right. Philly was occupied, which had been the capital at that point, and I think in 1812 the British took Detroit, or whatever it was called then. Detroit. I was gonna say Fort something, but so there are a lot of similarities between the flags and the states. But I'm not going to lie, sometimes it feels like a little bit of a stretch.
Reaching?
Yeah, it feels like a little bit of reaching to get to some of the points. And like, I understand how that could come about, because like it's the difference between seeing Providence and synchronicity, or whatever you want to call that. But yeah, like I guess like I'm wondering, like, in your theory, your thesis here and everything, like, these state flags have a lot in common. These states have a lot in common. But do you think there's anything deeper at work there, or do you think that these are grand coincidences?
Oh man, as Oprah said, there are no coincidences, huh? Yeah, that's the philosophical debate. It's almost like you can. Is there a power there? I guess.
Yeah, is there something that you see that kind of links them together in a greater way other than a flag and in some cases like some instances of shared history?
Yeah, shared history. There's people, culture. You know, I don't know. I mean, again, going back to Dr. Young, he talks about consciousness, the collective consciousness. I guess it's almost like ideas kind of spread, and there's like a intangible spirit of things. Not necessarily religious, but people can sense that during the holiday seasons. Like, oh, you can feel it.
Yeah, yeah.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, whatever, New Year's, Halloween. It's like, okay, you tune into the culture. Is that us, the culture tuning to us? Is that all just everyone collectively celebrating that? Or the spirit of your team? The Eagles, there's a spirit. There's like people tune into that. Being states and the situation of it all. I try not to go super deep into that because
right.
it's like there's no like clear-cut objective answer to that. But in the end, this is, I would say, something interesting. I mean, in the Declaration of Independence, I remember, or I think that's it. The last line they mentioned Providence, and I was like, "What is that? What do you mean? Oh, things just work out?" And then I would learn, oh, is there a difference between divine providence, just plain old providence? You could do like a George Carlin routine on this, and he'd be like, "What are these people talking about?"
Right. Yeah.
Oh, so this happens, and I can screw these people over. Okay, it's all right. It's just like, it gets a little scary too, because they did, I think, use that in some manner with the when the Native Americans were passing away. They're like, oh, they're dying. That's providential. We need to take their land now. I'm like, oh, that's, where do you take that information? It gets,
right.
You're getting into like this is a deep zone that people are going to really misinterpret the wrong way or right way. It's like, I don't want to go there. I want to make a fun book. It's educational. The key synchronicities are the flags. You can learn about flags. And then everything that I write is kind of a reflection of that. I try to find anything that matches up, aligns with that sort of synchronicity. Here you go. It's a new way to look through history.
Right,
and,
right.
Yeah. So you can do the traditional linear way, fact, year, fact. That's cool. And this is kind of like a non-linear, kind of a fun way of doing it. It does get deep at times, I know, in the book, but it's just like, it was like the book taking me over. I'm like, okay, you want me to write this? I'm like, okay, it doesn't make any sense to me, but it seems to have that rhythm, reflecting back again, all because of the flags.
Yeah.
That sets the tempo of how the flags are presented.
Right. No, yeah, I definitely appreciated that about it. And like, it was written in a way that like, so I will admit that I'm not super like, I believe in very few things. And Providence, synchronicity, etc., like are sometimes among them, sometimes not.
It's a mystery.
But I will say like my main point is this, like, even as kind of, I guess, what I would call like a skeptic on a lot of levels as far as stuff like that goes, I had a really good time reading this book just to kind of understand both the symbols on the flags and why they're there in the first place, and that, okay, these states may actually be more related than I thought. Like, I don't know that I necessarily believe in some divine providence, and I'm not saying that you necessarily do either, but in making these flags look similar, etc. But I will say that I learned a hell of a lot from this book. Both like, oh shit, I didn't know that person was from there and did this thing, and like, oh, that's actually represented on the flag for this reason, etc., etc. So yeah, like I don't know where I come away on the synchronicities exactly. I won't lie. But
yeah,
I will say it's a very enjoyable read if you want to learn about states and state flags, and honestly just like state history.
Hey,
and then kind of like go and make your own decision from there.
Yeah. I don't. I got a question. Okay.
Sure, please.
Did you catch all the Star Wars, Star Trek kind of references sprinkled about?
I caught a few. I think I even highlighted a few. I should have highlighted them in like a different color. Yeah. But yeah, no, I know I did catch a few.
It's written by Generation X. Hopefully that came through. It's like,
yeah, no, that did come through. Yeah, no, there were a few beautiful ones in there. I can't remember them right now, but yeah, no, I thought it was a really interesting read. A lot of things that I had not thought about, like places and people that were closer together both in place and in history, I guess, than I maybe appreciated. And I mean, like in a lot of cases, like and I gather, okay, so before moving on too much, so this is A Vast Armada of Navy Blue is part 1, and then there's part 2, A Balance Between Dark and Light Forces, or A Dark and Light Force. But it looks like you have plans to write further books in this series. Is that correct? Okay. Because yeah, the ones you've got on the cover are these that the viewers can see here. But I imagine, well, are you able to give us any kind of preview on what other ones you may compare, or is that kind of a secret for now?
No, it's out there. I mean, all the primary footage has been captured. Let's put it that way.
Okay, gotcha.
The movie. So at this point, it's just polishing up, editing. You spend hours and hours. Oh my God, reading and reading. It's like you see that movie trope when they're in the studio singing that song over and over again. Like, don't you get sick of that song after the 50th time? You're like, yeah, you do. You do. You want to like throw everything away and quit. Like, I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
Then you take a day off. And you're like, okay, I can do this again. Read it again, and fix it. You know?
Yeah.
But let's see. Yeah, there's some new stuff. Like this one concentrates on, I guess, northern states.
Right. Okay.
The next one will be southern states for the most part. Finish all those empty, the ones on the cover, especially because southern states.
I was going to say because a few of the ones on the cover aren't in the book yet, but yeah.
Right. I did make sure I made a little bit of reference, so if anyone tries, I mean, it is a marketing thing. They decided you need to let people see it. It grabs their attention. I'm like, okay. And I had one or two lines on each state in that, kind of like getting you ready for the next one. So it was, I've gotten some flack for that. So the flags that are on the cover are not in the book. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's
yeah. Well, just wait.
Just wait. It's coming.
Right.
Get you ready. Build up anticipation if it gets there. Yeah. It does also, I guess, break the fourth or fifth wall, like that one chapter. I want to give it away. It's not your traditional reference book where I kind of not necessarily go off the wheels. I think it's chapter 11.
I vaguely remember.
Yeah, well, I think something about maybe time traveling high school dudes. And they end up.
Is that the one with? No,
Keanu Reeves. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
George Carlin. They somehow made an appearance. I don't know how.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Okay.
But I want to ask you one thing. Yeah, the whole, like, when you get to the core of the book, its message, it's almost like the movie Pulp Fiction. If you remember in the scene, Samuel Jackson. Did you see Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, I don't remember a gimp in this book though.
No. There's a scene where Samuel Jackson and John Travolta, the guy comes out of the bathroom and starts shooting at them, go bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
And then they have that theme debate. Samuel Jackson's like, whoa, the hand of God came down and moved those bullets. And John Travolta's we got lucky. And that's kind of like, that's a good, there's no right answer there. You're going to be like, okay, how did we not get hit by those bullets?
Yeah.
One person's going to see it this way. Something magical happened that can't be explained. And the other perspective is just got lucky. It's just a statistical anomaly. That's all it is. And that's kind of like a thematic. If that's, I try to keep it open-ended like that.
No, exactly. That's a good, like, that's an excellent, like, dichotomy. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because you're not, exactly. You're not saying that, hey, this flag is related to this flag, and here is why. You're saying, all right, so there happen to be a lot of similarities between these flags, and there happen to be a lot of similarities in these directions between these states. And kind of let the reader do the rest, as it were. Right. Yeah, and I appreciated that, because I don't like books that just tell me what to think. So, I like ones that kind of leave it up to me to make my decision. And honestly, like throughout the chat, because each chapter, for the listeners and viewers, each chapter is about 2 flags. And there were some that hit me and some that didn't. Like there were some that I was like, okay, all right, there's definitely something to this, and some that I was like, this seems like a little bit of a stretch. And I imagine most readers are going to have that, but that's probably not the worst thing. You kind of almost want that because it gets people engaged. So, all right, so that is the flag revelation. We may have a little bit more on that, but mostly we're going to have a few kind of different ideas from Chris when we get back from this break. Stick around. All right, and we are back, part 3, more with Christopher Maddish. And yeah, Chris, you've got a lot of other interesting stuff to show us. You have so many designs. We've gone into you discussing other designs, but let's talk about some of yours.
Yeah. So designing flags is a cool thing. Apparently, it's not officially vexillology, but it's like an adjacent
Vexillography,
activity according to the letter of the law of vexillology. But I love designing flags. It was almost like when I dove into this area, it kind of just became what you have to do. It was not my intention. My intention was this pattern I recognize and see where it would take me. But through the process, designing flags, I think, is a really cool idea because it kind of immerses you in making flags and understanding them a little better. I love when people design flags, but my difference is I like to design flags that haven't been designed before necessarily. Redesigning flags, I get it. Some of the designs are not necessarily inspiring, but they're a little confusing, I guess is a better word.
Right.
To be politically correct. But when I design a flag, I like to design flags for new and original concepts. So the flags I think I'm the first person to design. Being first is kind of cool. Doesn't mean you're the best either. Just being first is nice, but doesn't necessarily mean it'll last, right?
Sure.
But the first one I'm going to show you is a flag chart for Americans born overseas.
Okay.
All right. There it is.
Okay.
All right. So, right.
All right, and these are all ones that you came up with.
Right.
Gotcha.
You have any questions? To me, it's obvious what they represent, but some people looking at this are like, "What? What is this? Kind of? Why would you do this?"
Okay, so yeah. Well, I mean, so there are a lot of people that just listen to this too and don't watch. So,
Okay.
I'll describe. So the Born in North America one looks a lot like the U.S. flag. The canton is a little bit more squared, I think. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. It's not a square, but in any case, it looks like it has 13 stars in a circle. But the canton is red. The stripes are blue and white. And then so like a Betsy Ross flag with the blue and red inverted.
Correct.
The Born in Asia, Africa, and Europe ones are all fairly similar. The Asia one has a blue field with that same red canton with 13 stars in a circle, but a white stripe off toward the fly, not quite like Tennessee's flag, but toward it. Born in Africa is the same, but exchanged the red and white. It looks a little bit like Burma's old flag, or the Born in Europe one. Yeah, I don't know. This might be getting boring with me describing all of them, but yeah, it's got the blue canton with the stars in white field, red flyside element. Yeah, can you explain? Okay, so why did you pick those three for born in Asia, Africa, and Europe first off?
Well, because they represent the old world hemisphere. That's sort of the patterns of it. So they're linked together. Okay, you're born in the old world, which is Asia, Africa, Europe. It kind of like clues you into part of that family. Everything has that red, white, and blue theme. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of American. I mean, you would look at it like, okay, I can see something of America, but kind of put them in those generic sort of slots.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, South America and Australia are, well, South America is kind of on the cusp, but they're in the southern hemisphere, so I reversed it. The canton with the stars, so it looks like the Eastern flag, especially the born in Australia, Pacific Oceania.
Right.
North America, anyone born in Canada, Mexico, Puerto Rico, well, like, they already have their flag. This happens to people who just happen to be born in another country. Their parents are American citizens, or maybe they later became American citizens. Their families are in the military, serving, in Cuba perhaps or something like that. So it's not necessarily reflecting that region, but it's like it says an ethnic connection to necessarily. There's a lot of people, I guess, European background who are in the U.S. military and they have children born in Asia, not necessarily Asia, but it could also represent people who were born in Asia and later became American citizens. So it's almost like a placeholder. And the reason why I came up with these flags is there was every once in a while there was like a flag thing children would do in like primary school, like write the flag you were born in. All the students, of course, born in the United States would find the flag they were born in, most
Mhm.
of the region they're from. There's always a few students who are like, well, I wasn't born in the USA, but I'm American. What do I do? I'm like, well, where were you born? I was born in France. And you're like, well, I'm not French either. It's like, what do you do with that person? So you want to
Right.
get like an equivalent sort of level flag that kind of represents that region. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so you're born in Europe, you can use this flag then.
I
And
mean,
it's kind of
okay.
like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's reminding me of like the what is it? The flag of like Acadia, like not Acadiana, but like it's basically the French flag with a yellow five-pointed star in
Right.
Canton. And it's it's you're clearly French, but you were born or have historic ties to I guess northeast or southeast Canada, I guess in that case. But yeah, okay, so these are kind of like expatriate, like designed for like not even expatriates really. um yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Anyone?
guess as listed, just American citizens that were born abroad but still have a strong sense of American citizenship. Is that kind of the gist?
Yeah. Well, yeah, just an equivalent placeholder for like they're equivalent to the states, but they're not states. But
Right.
you just use the American. Most people say, "Oh, just use the American flag." But if you want to get a little more definition,
Right.
you're like, "Okay, I was born in South America, but I have no ancestry or roots or any kind of connection to South America. My parents just happen to be there." You could use this flag, and it's also
Right.
for people who grew up
Okay.
in South America. Said this, hey, I'm moving up north. I'm going to use this flag to represent that I'm an American now. I mean, I still have a connection to that country I came from, but this is representing that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I really like this. Did this I do have to ask, just since you showed me the other one earlier, did this kind of spring from that old El Salvador flag? Because that looks a bit like the Born in North America one. I
Yes,
was wondering if that was kind of like the genesis for the idea or anything.
no, that's a synchronicity, but
Yeah, there we go.
maybe there is a connection. It's hmm. Maybe we can spur on El Salvador to change their flag.
I mean, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Some of the
whatever they do, it's their. I don't want to.
yeah, for sure. But I do like the only one we haven't gone over is for listeners anyway is the Born in Antarctica one. which is more or less a Nordic cross with a blue canton with the kind of Betsy Ross circle of stars, and then 3 stars, one in each of the other 3 divisions. I'm not sure
Yes.
exactly what those represent. I would imagine it's some constellation, but
Yes, it's the southern constellation. Octans the Octant.
okay, yeah, totally. That one that we all know and love.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if a person who's born in Antarctica either was a U.S. citizen by parents or later became one has happened yet. But again, that's that forward future thinking, kind of like, oh, let's design this flag. Hasn't happened yet. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of flags that are designed for things that haven't happened yet, but are great designs. And I think honestly that's one of them. I think that might be my favorite of your ones here on the screen right now. But everyone knows that I'm pretty sympathetic to a Scandinavian cross, so maybe a low bar, but yeah. But no, I like a lot of these. The Australia Pacific Oceania one reminds me of Cook Islands a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Other than obviously it's got the just bars there instead of the Union Jack. But yeah, that Antarctica one is special. I like that one. All right, so you have a few other ones for viewers and listeners, Christopher and I have been trying to set this episode up for months on months, and he has sent me some ones like you had some ones for Pi Day, you had some ones for God, I don't even remember what else, but as you mentioned, you are an expert at coming up with flags for things that don't have a flag yet, which I think is one, a very cool idea, and 2, that you're very good at. So do you want to share, do you have another one that you could share with us?
Well, yeah, since we're on this topic, I can do one more. This was actually presented in Nava, Quebec. I was able to present. Maybe might get me in trouble here because it's
Ruh-roh.
Uh-oh. A little controversy is fun, right?
Yeah, I won't tell if you don't.
Okay. If I can get that up here.
It's only a few hundred people that watch this and listen to it.
I guess the only reason why I'm entitled to do this is my ex-stepmother was French-Canadian. Wonderful person.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, as long as she's your ex-stepmother, I think you're allowed to do whatever.
And my ex-stepsisters. I wonder what they're doing these days. I'm sure people have those complicated relationships, but this one I took the opposite angle. I think the icon for Canada is the maple leaf. It just speaks intuitively.
So yeah, explain this one really quick to listeners. Just a brief.
It's a flag chart for Canadians born abroad. All right. So it's the same thing, but there's lots of Canadians who were not born in Canada, right? And if they ever wanted an equivalent flag, say when they do that, which region are you from, which province or territory, everyone gets a flag. Oh yeah, I got this one. What do all the other Canadians do who were born outside of Canada? Just give them the national flag? I mean, that makes sense, but you want like a sub-national sort of equivalent to match that, the other cool flags of Canada. Like Manitoba. But in this case, this is kind of the rank where they are. And again, it's the same thing, just divided into regions: Asia, North America, Africa, Europe. So any Canadians who happen to be born in Europe originally, or perhaps they were German and later emigrated to Canada and became Canadian, would use that flag as the subnational equivalent.
Okay, is the Europe one based on an older French flag with fleur-de-lis?
Yeah, I think that's definitely the influence there. I think the pattern might be up or backwards, but it really...
I was going to say, because I thought the EU. 2 were on... Yeah. The Africa one is, I think, the most obvious. Right. It's the, for listeners, picture the, Pan-African flag of green, black, red, but it's been made into a Canadian pale, and there is a yellow maple leaf in the middle of the black
Right.
section in the middle.
Yeah, that's the one Elon Musk would use. I think he has triple citizenship: South Africa, Canada, and the USA.
Can we revoke all of them? Can he just go to Mars? Just be a Mars, like whatever. Anyway, the North American one I am confused about because it looks a lot like Latvia.
Yeah. Well, these are any Americans. Oh, yeah, it does. It does. But it is red. It's
It
the
is
Canadian flag
a different
tilted on
red.
its side in a different ratio. I originally had the red maple leaves in the center, almost like a pattern. I was like, nah, just keep it. All right. So anyone from who's born in the U.S., like Max Headroom, he's a big popular star. He was actually born in Washington D.C., but he's Canadian. So I think there's a few other, I don't know, people like that. I think. Let me think. I think he's probably the most popular Canadian born in the USA. Didn't necessarily convert to become Canadian or change his citizenship or get dual citizenship. He was always a Canadian, and I don't think he ever went after his U.S. citizenship. Check me, Wikipedia, internet people.
Wait, who? Max Headroom?
The guy who did that, the actor. Oh.
That did the stunt like on live TV and everything, where he came in and was like, "Hey, it's me."
What's his real name? Got to look that one up. Yeah, he's a Canadian, born in Washington D.C.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, our younger listeners can look
So
up.
for
Max
him, when he's hanging out with his Canadian pals, he's like, "Well, I wasn't born in the provinces or territory. I've always been a Canadian. My parents are Canadian, so I get to use this one to match you guys, born in de jure land."
Right. The Oceania one I get. The Antarctica one I get, to be honest. What's what did you draw on for the Asia one?
Oh, just how diverse the regions are. There's East Asia, South Asia, North Asia. They sort of in West Asia try to agglomerate it before you could theoretically say the four main regions of Asia. There's East, South, West, and I guess the other part that people kind of put wherever.
East, Southwest, and Russia.
Could work, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely take... I mean, the bottom left looks like Bangladesh a little bit. Top left could be China or could have been the USSR. The
Vietnam.
orange colors are more like what, like kind of Sikh, like, I don't know, South Asian a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the yellow green. Yeah, I guess the yellow green could be kind of, I don't know exactly, but
A little bit of the east and that central area that's kind of ill defined.
yeah, okay. I can see
They like that green color, Tajiki, Pakistan, Azerbaijan.
Right, okay, yeah, the steps and all that. Okay, so we've got a flag chart for Americans born abroad, one for Canadians born abroad. You got like 1/3 one for us to digest here?
Nope. The ones I'd like to show you, I get that of this category. I think we're good. I got some other flags lined up to look at.
Okay. Yeah, let's do one more, and then the rest we'll have to save for the Patreon, I think.
Okay. Yes. You want to go for the pie flags?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, my friends were getting married on Pi Day on March 14th, and I let Chris know that and everything, and he was like, "Oh, I've got some pie flags that I made up that I can send to you for Pi Day." And I was like, I had never even really cared about Pi Day, but
right.
Not a big, math guy, but not that you need to be, I guess. But all right, so and again, keep in mind there are listeners here, so if you want to try and explain these things, the one on the right's easier than the one on the left.
Mm-hmm. So these are if you Google a pie flag, the most obvious surface level thing to do, which is fine and okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I totally respect that. You don't want to go too deep. You get the letter pi. It's obvious. It's straight to the point. You got it. Pi Day, Pi Flag, gotcha. In different colors or permutations. I think it also means certain meanings too, fraternities, cultures, this and that. But I took it to of course, I got to complicate things.
I
I
think
took
it's
it to the next level down.
I think it's the
Yeah?
polyamory flag is what the pi is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Polyamory. Related to pi. I wonder how that connection started. And
They both start with P.
why not the square root symbol or something, pi symbol? I'm sure there's a really good story behind that. I would love to hear.
No idea. No
But
idea.
anyways, so I took the maritime flags and combined them. On one side, there's like the International Maritime Signal flags that represent numbers. On the other side are the NATO numerical flags. When you combine them, again, this is a perfect synchronicity. It's just a coincidence. Maybe if you're a pi, if you belong to the Church of Piology, you might be more interested than most people. But what happens is it creates a pi, coincidentally, on both of them. So you take the number 3, looks like the French flag, and the number 1 looks like the Japanese flag, and the number 4 looks like the Danish flag. When you combine them, it makes a little quartered pizza pie or some sort of pie.
Yeah.
You see it? And the ratios too. How's it one is within the other, making
almost
that
like
pie.
a crosshair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crosshair. Exactly. Same thing happens with the NATO pi flags. You got the blue horizontal tribar for the number 3. It's easy because it's 1, 2, 3, and it's very distinct. There are 3. I like the NATO number 3. Number 2 looks kind of like the Spanish flag by the Spain without the coat of arms. And again, you have to cut it up a little bit because it's representing a ratio now, so it doesn't get full expression. Or in the background, you're going towards the center. And then again, the number 4 is, I guess, how can we say it? It looks like a red Scottish flag.
Yeah, like a reverse Alabama, but with like a thinner...
Yeah, reverse Alabama. Reverse Florida, whatever.
Like
reverse
a
Alabama.
Thinner St. Andrews card.
And that makes another pie. And the NATO flag has that same sort of circular X too on the official NATO flag. Again, those are all just cosmic coincidences.
Right. Yeah, I'm getting what you mean when you say stuff like that. I mean, not that I didn't, but yeah. Yeah, these pie flags are amazing. I know which one I prefer. It'd be the International Maritime one.
You do?
Just because I think it's more simple.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, well, although I'll say this, which one would I remember more? It'd probably be the NATO one.
Yeah.
Like I'd remember that one more because that like diamond pattern, it's almost like a Brazilian it's not, but it's reminiscent, that kind of like middle rhombus. The word rhombus has come up on this show a lot, but yeah, that one's more memorable. The other one looks like a reverse French flag with like some kind of element. And not all French flags with an element have been a good thing. So, yeah, that one's a little trickier, I guess. But
yeah,
I mean, I love the concept of these pie flags, like 314. I mean, it's nothing that I would have never in a million years thought of this. Where do you get the idea to even do a pie flag? Do you just look at like what day is it today? And you're like, oh, I'll do one for that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I think it was Pi Day, and I was studying the maritime flags. It's almost like that moment you look at the flags. Oh, it's Pi Day. You see the numbers, and like some part of your consciousness, somebody in the back of my head is like, "Oh, cool, make a flag." And it's almost like you can like sense it coming. I'm like, "Wait a second. Oh, a 3." It was like a eureka moment. Wait, you can combine those into one flag,
right,
and cut them up. And so the first one, a maritime, came first. That was easy. I had a harder time cutting it up perfectly. I'm like, oh yeah, that looks really cool. Kind of like, because you can juggle in your mind. If you look at the 3, focus on the number 3, you'll see the number 3 flag.
Yeah.
And then if you focus on the number 1, oh yeah, there's the 1. And then 2, it's almost like that magic eye mind trick.
Right.
The NATO flag was actually hard. I had like 8 or 7 designs. I was like, wait a second, this looks stupid. And I kept working at it. And, I was like, oh yeah, there it is. And you know what it reminds me of? The X-Men. I don't know why. Like
Yeah, okay. I was
1990s
gonna say it
cartoon.
reminds me of the X-Men too, that central element for sure.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, pie. And I know pie. Why is there that again? The holiday of Pi Day again goes back to synchronicity. It's like, why are we celebrating this number? Okay, it's kind of cool. Math is cool. I get it. And another, especially being a teacher, teachers love this holiday because they're not teaching math for one day, having a party.
Yeah.
And again, the synchronicity is because Albert Einstein was born on Pi Day. I'm like, really? We're going to do that? Okay. And he came up with all these cool ideas. All right.
I don't think I
Math,
even knew
science.
that.
Yeah. Okay. And again, the foundation of that holiday, because of Albert Einstein, just by chance happened to be born on Pi Day. Or
Weird.
was it destiny? Was it meant to be?
Yeah. But
The
yeah,
master of math.
there it comes back again.
Yeah.
Well, dude. Yeah, you've sent me so many, like, all right. We'll get into a couple more on the Patreon. I think we need to kind of start wrapping up for now, but these
Mhm.
are very cool ideas. These are very cool ideas. Yeah. Let's get into more of it over there. But all that said, for right now, there's a little preview, I guess, on the screen there of what we will be getting into on the Patreon.
Sorry.
It's all right. No, it's all good, actually. I kind of love the preview. All right, so we will start wrapping up. If you've got any plugs anywhere you want to be found, anywhere we can find all this amazing work, including the book, like, go ahead and plug that now. I will put it on the screen and in the notes.
Yeah, here it is. Get the book here. We got many copies, happy copies. You can get it online. You can get them in Amazon, upside down, of course. Right, so you can read it this way. Give yourself a challenge. There it is. That's backwards. Now it's forwards. I printed out a backwards sheet. Okay, that's always fun. Keep that in there.
Oh, I absolutely will.
We need humor. All right, yeah, because I know this happens. Things get reversed. Isn't that weird how that happens? This is what it looks like, but then the computer goes, "Hey, let's goof it up. Why not? Like the image on your brain or something."
Computers.
So this is the book. If you're into vexillology, if you're into vexillology, you have to read it and leave a review because you can pay it forward. It helps all of us. We are a small group. We need to be like our goal is to pass the stamp people. I think we can do it.
Yeah.
5 years.
Numismatology.
Yeah, we'll leave them in the dust.
No,
we're going to get their crowd.
Coins. But yeah.
Yeah, it's controversial. It's fun. It makes you think. It's weird. But in the end, it's fun. If you want to take it seriously, fine. The synchronicity stuff is weird. Trust me. I lost my mind a little bit doing it, and it's fun.
Oh, it's very fun.
But definitely it's educational, and you'll never look at the flags again the same. Maybe or not.
That I can say. For sure.
When the founding fathers are talking about Providence, maybe it'll help you understand that, I hope. Or something like that. So there it is. First 3 chapters are free on Amazon. You can write it out.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'll show you the link a little later. Or you can...
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, I will put it up on the screen right here. And obviously in the show notes. Speaking of links, you can find all of our show stuff over at linktree.com/flagged4content, all spelled out. And that includes links to the Patreon, where Chris and I are going to be talking a little bit over on some of his other designs. I do that with every guest. So if there's any guest that you want to hear more from, that's probably on Patreon. In fact, it's pretty damn sure that it is. We have merch, which I think is now a link on there. It's the holiday season, etc. And then, anywhere with @ symbols, you can find us at flagged4content, flagged for like the number content. Last thing is we are more on Blue Sky than we are on Twitter now. So you can find us there. Same handle, flagged4content.bsky.social. Anyway, that's all my stuff. And Christopher, I have notes on how to end the show, but I suspect that as an author, you have something better. So if you want to go ahead and take us away to the ending here.
Yes. Again, this is podcast number 1, Christopher Maddish. Flags. Flags are fun. Flags are educational. I recommend you design your own flags. Redesign flags. Redesign a redesigned flag. Because all flags need redesign, and that's fine. If flags change, that's part of change is inevitable. Get with the program. It's okay. But this is a fun historical document that'll take you on a trip through time and space, and even the future.
Short and punchy. I like it. All right. So with that said, we are going to take y'all out here, and we will catch you on the fly side. Take care, y'all.
Excuse me. But cheers.
Nice. Flag for Content is proud to be sponsored by Flags for Good. Go to flagsforgood.com for more information.